Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Timeless, Season 1, Episode 8. It's called Space Race. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. One of the things we've praised in the last two episodes of this is that it keeps shaking things up. And this one actually starts like the first few did, where it shows you the event happening, as it did. And It was the Apollo moon landing, 1969. Pretty famous event. But what it did is once it finished, it then spun it into like a little swerve where, oh no, it's not the same as usual because we're starting from Flynn's point of view. We're going to see what he's up to, and we're seeing how they're getting information in present day. They're talking to one of the control room members who was there in NASA that day.
Yeah, it's still similar to the core structure that we had for six odd episodes, maybe 5, but it's just different enough to be fresh.
Well, that's the thing, though. The differences don't really stop there, though.
Yeah,
because there's
a lot of small ones, isn't there?
We don't see the team arrive in 1969. We don't see them leave. It just cuts back to them in present day as if, well, of course we know how to get back because we've seen it multiple times now.
Yeah, we don't need to have this anymore.
Yeah, we don't have to do that every time. Sometimes it'll be relevant and we will do it, but
if they can save money on disappearing that thing for the CG shot every time, why not?
Yeah, we've seen it enough. It's fine. But the other effect of that I really, really like, though, is that when they go back in time and they shoot the control room guy in the past, that's probably the hardest hitting death this show has had, because we've just seen him as an old man talking about how he'd lived there his whole life, and we've seen his accomplishments, and
it's when he goes, and I'll die here as well. It's like, oh, for God's sake, why the hell did you say that?
But it's like Flynn, I'm sure, had he just had the badge to give to him in present day, he would have been like, fine, I'll just take this.
He might have still killed him, honestly. But if he had killed him, the guy would have lived a full life. So it's like, it's not the end. It's not as bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still murder, but yeah, sure.
Sure, it's murder, but there's a difference between murdering someone at what, 80 odd?
Yeah, but
versus...
I don't think he was, though. I don't think that was the plan. I think it was just going to talk him in, because they were claiming to be writing a book about something, and he offered a photograph a minute ago to put in the book. Yeah. What's to say he wouldn't have given him the pass just to go and scan it?
If they hadn't given him it, and they needed to take it, I think they would have just killed him.
Like, Flynn even says he's disappointed to hear that he doesn't have it anymore. That's clearly the moment where Flynn realises he has to kill him.
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted to. So
yeah.
I think that's clearly there in the scene, which it adds a bit of depth to Flynn's character that he would rather avoid killing people if he can, but he is cold enough that he will just do it point blank, no questions asked.
Yeah, definitely.
And his death was actually hard hitting, and I feel weird talking about this random character's death. A character who we get maybe 3 minutes of in its entirety.
His name, I bet you don't remember.
I don't remember his name, of course I don't.
No, me either.
But his death was actually, I was like, oh, that actually affected me a little bit more than any of the other deaths in this show, just because they gave us this little bit of him before, and because it's time travel, it's a fun way of doing it as well, because it's here he was as an old man, and now that's taken away. He'll never get to be that.
Yeah.
He was robbed of 40 years of life, well, 50 at this point.
Closer to 50, yeah.
Do you know, sometimes when I'm thinking of time, I'm still in the trap where I think it's about 2000. So I still think of the 80s as 20 years ago, and it's not. It's 35 years ago or whatever. Nah.
Yeah, I think I'm stuck around 05.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I just remember the millennium so well, as the pivot point in time, that I always think of 80s was 20 years ago, 70s was 30 years ago, and that's complete bollocks now.
Do you know what I think it is? I think I'm stuck about a decade behind. But interestingly, it's a half decade, right, where I am cut off, 05. I think it's about, I get halfway through a decade and my mind goes, no, you're right, it is 10 years later. And it kind of starts to piece it together for those last couple of years. And then by the time it's it gets into that groove, and then it's no, it's stuck in this now for too long. Because give me half a year and I'll be yeah, I'll get this right. And then, I'll be off again soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I always seem to remember it that way. But so the plot of this one, of course, is that they're trying to mess up the moon landing, and the way they do it is they mess up. They basically, I think Rufus at one point actually says it's basically just a modern day DDoS attack on the NASA computer system.
Yeah.
But of course, in 1969, they don't even know what a computer virus is. never mind what a DDoS attack is, never mind how to solve it or fix it.
Yeah.
And the team, specifically Rufus and Lucy, have to deal with it at NASA whilst Wyatt tries to run down after.
I think it's
Flynn.
interesting that they went with the DDoS. It's like particularly evil because not only had they not, ever encountered anything like it in '69, it's a horrible thing to deal with even now because there is no real defense system against it.
Yeah, I like how simple it is though to us.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of jokes about that, when Katherine Johnson's like bragging about how good the computers are. She's like, "There's a
2 megabytes."
Yeah, there's a whole 2 megabytes of storage in here. Like, 2 megabytes.
Oh, man. Rufus is us then.
Yeah, because even when Rufus gets annoyed at the computer and he says, "There's more computing power in my toaster than this piece of crap," and the funny thing is, he's right. There's actually one of the facts I remember from QI, probably about 10 years ago now. Actually, that show's been going for a while, but there's actually more computing power in one of your phones now than there was in the entire NASA or Apollo space program. Like all those years of computers,
easily
combined are less than a phone.
I'm pretty sure I could go out to the shop and buy a calculator, pretty cheap, that has more computing power than that thing.
Yeah, probably. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Hell, I don't know. We could probably name things. My remote control for the TV probably has more computing power than a computer did in 1969.
Yeah, it can store all those presets.
Exactly. Oh god, 2 megabits
Sad,
of storage. Yeah. Well, there's that famous photo of it's like a 60 megabit hard drive getting loaded off.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's like almost like 2 fridges like taped together coming off a plane, and it costs this amount of money to ship it and all that. And now we've got like an SD card that's got like hundreds of gigabits. Just
I know it's crazy.
Yeah, you can tell we are fairly computer literate in the sense that we are more interested in the differences and of what they bring up in this. Like, because when we talked about the other episodes, we weren't going, "Oh, look at how much things have advanced since the 1700s." Like,
but to be fair, this might be the first one where they've properly played it as jokes, though, and like they've addressed it in the show.
True, but it is something that we care a bit more about because we use it on a day-to-day basis. Like, even more so than other people we know. Like, we have lots of friends who aren't nerds who, don't care about these kind of things. But when we get a new hard drive that's bigger than anything we've ever had before, we're like, oh, this is 2 terabits.
Yeah.
I remember my first one. My first one was only 40 gigabits. This is,
This is magical.
Yeah, so we really saw people who will notice these things, and we will sit and reminisce about how crap our internet speeds were,
We have done that multiple times.
We have done that multiple times. So this is playing to our sensibilities, making jokes about how different, the size of the hard drives were. If they're even called hard drives, I don't think they are. They're tape.
No, it's all tape, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I don't even know what the correct term for those pieces of shit are, but it's not a hard drive. Nothing hard about it.
Hot garbage. That's the correct term.
As Lucy puts it, everything to bring these astronauts back safely is relying on a bit of paper with holes in it going through a machine.
It is pretty astonishingly impressive that they did that with that amount of computing power.
Well, on a much obviously less grandiose scale, I always, whenever I watch the first Toy Story, I'm always impressed they did CG like that in like 1995 when no one else was doing stuff like that.
No one is even close.
I mean, you look at like PlayStation 1 came out that year in Japan. Look at an early PS1 game and then look at Toy Story and go, and I don't even mean the gameplay. I mean the actual pre-rendered, cutscenes. Look at those and then look at Toy Story and tell me they weren't doing insane stuff. At Pixar at the time. So, on a much grander scale, NASA in 1969, they on these complete pieces of crap, they were sending people to the moon and bringing them back.
To be fair, let's give credit where it's due. Russia didn't do bad either.
Oh no, they didn't. No, Russia. As they even bring it up in this episode that Russia weren't. The space race was pretty close. It wasn't.
Yeah, so we're giving NASA all the credit, obviously. Yeah, and well deserved. But it wasn't just them that was getting this good results out of that technology.
Yeah, of course. I think China's starting to get into the game of recent years. I'm sure I've heard something about China trying to increase its space program. Yeah. But enough about space programs. Let's talk about brass tacks of what's actually going on in the episode. So, Flynn is trying to ruin that, and he's used Anthony, who of course is the pilot he's got that came from the same team that Rufus was on, and that causes some inner conflict for Rufus. Lucy doesn't have a whole lot to do in this episode. She is there to be harassed by one of the employees and then have a little
female empowerment moment.
Yeah, female empowerment. And she specifically does it because she sees the other women walking past. It's almost like she wouldn't have bothered if it was just because she knows it's just the time and things will get better. But she sees the other women see it happening, and she's like, no, I'm going to stand up so that they see, and maybe feel empowered themselves. So I thought that was a nice touch. Just that's why she did it, because she's seen there was others watching.
Yeah.
And of course Rufus is trying to figure things out, and I love that Katherine Johnson, who we hear about as this unsung hero of NASA, who was this great mathematician that even Apollo 13, the movie, kind of ignored her existence. And Rufus is a big fan of her, but I love that even she's kind of almost discriminatory towards him when he starts doing all these equations on the board. And she's like, "You're a janitor."
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but no, it was a endearing episode for Rufus because he kept talking about all his personal heroes, her, the astronaut, even he was naming people in the control room. I can't name people in the NASA control room for the Apollo missions. I don't know any of that. I can name Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, but that's about it.
Yeah, we can't name them, even though we've just literally been told them about 10 times each in the episode.
That is accurate. Yeah, that is accurate. But no, probably more interesting in the episode because obviously we have the moment where Rufus kills one of the goons. He doesn't kill Anthony, but he does kill the goon, and this is a sort of big moment for him because he's never killed anyone. He's not white. He's not a soldier. He's not done this kind of thing before, and he even brings up at the end that he's surprised by how little he actually cares that he did it.
Yeah.
So
I think it is interesting because obviously Anthony had that point early on where he stood to Flynn about how he doesn't perform well under pressure, and then obviously at the end we have Rufus saying how he's changed so much, where this isn't even bothering him anymore. But
the thing is, though, I like that his statement there about him not performing well under pressure is something we've seen. We've seen that if you go back to the first couple of episodes, that's exactly what he's like. But
yeah.
Over the 8 episodes, he has actually grown more confident. He's been through these different situations that have made him this new man.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting is seeing where they grow next, because all of them are changing. Of course, they are with this adventures stuff, but it's been fairly drastic for Rufus in just 8 episodes. Yeah. So where will he be after a season 2? Who knows?
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think it's a show. Apologies for Connor's noise there that came very clearly over the mic. What was it? Was that a hiccup you were fighting back?
It was a hiccup. Yeah, I tried to keep it in, but it didn't really work.
It just sounded more disturbing than ever, to be honest. If I have to, but I think I'm impressed at the show, which for the first couple of episodes did seem a little bit, shallow, but kind of light-hearted fun, cheesy fun. That it is having this character development where they are kind of growing as people. Lucy to an extent as well. And of course, a big problem for Lucy here in this episode is that when they find out what Flynn was doing, because Flynn actually doesn't even go to NASA, he kind of lets the other guys deal with that. He goes off on his own little mission to meet this woman named Maria and her son. And the whole time I was kind of thinking, okay, this is a personal thing. There's a connection to them in some way. At one point I was even thinking, is that him as a kid? Maybe with a different name.
Considered it, yeah.
And it was pretty close. It turned out it was his brother, who originally had died. His half-brother. But he actually came back and saved his life. And his reason wasn't even because he initially cared about him. He'd never met him, because he was dead before he was even born, from the sounds of it. It was that his mother was always sad. She always had this air of sadness about her, and he wanted to fix that.
Yeah.
It does make some of the earlier scenes a little bit weirder, because it does feel like he's flirting with her.
It does at
a
the
lot
time,
of time, yeah. Maybe it won't be so much when I go back and watch it again, but at least when he comes up and he starts making small talk, it's like, oh, this is proper, he's gaining her trust, and even though you assume he's got an ulterior motive, it does feel like that's the way he's doing it. He's being a gentleman to gain her appreciation kind of thing.
It also actually establishes some facts about Flynn, because obviously there was speculation of who he was. We were thinking, what's his relation to Lucy? I was even thinking he was from a little bit further in the future than 2016. and he'd come back.
Yeah, I'd considered that as well. Yeah, but now this seems to.
It puts his age as no, he's got to be about that age in 2016, more or less.
Yeah, that sets it more in stone, and it gives us an idea that he actually he's a contemporary 2016 person like everyone else. He's not from the future or the past or whatever. He's in the same timeline.
And if he is from the future, it's only like a couple of years.
Yeah,
It's not much.
Can't be super long. It did some interesting things for his character though. I think the scene that I liked more than anything with him was when he's talking to Maria and she talks about what she would do if someone ever harmed her son. And I kind of appreciated that because it was like him hearing his own attitude from her. So that was kind of like, even if I'd already considered there was a link, but that was like, all right, there's definitely a link here. Like not that there needs to be for them to have the same opinion on this, but it feels just so intentional that it's.
Well, the line that was like, if you weren't considering it, then you have to be now, is when she says, "Oh, you have a really good connection with him," like talking about her kid or whatever it is. Like, he really likes you. It's like, yeah, okay, there's definitely nothing going on here.
Yeah, so that's kind of. But Lucy has a problem though when they realise what he was doing. Like, this was a selfish thing for him to save someone. And she's like, well, why can't we just go back? Look, he didn't hesitate to do this. Why can't I go back and like get my sister back or whatever? And she's assured that they'll be allowed to once to deal with Flynn, but not a moment before.
Yeah.
But now I will say I appreciated learning about Katherine Johnson because I didn't know anything about this.
Me either. The show is teaching us.
It's teachers, and I'm sure some historians will probably like say, oh, when the moon landing happened, it was like the complete wrong time of day or whatever. Like, they'll tell us some facts like that that'll probably be off. But it's nice to learn something about the history that's maybe not as commonly known.
I think this show's done a good job that where even when it's been major events, it's tended to spotlight on things that are a little bit more unknown, but from what we see have been true.
Yeah. So it's fun learning about this kind of stuff. Yeah. Although it is worth mentioning, Katherine Johnson did hear someone say they had built a time machine, and given what Rufus was saying like before that, it doesn't take much of an imagination to, after hearing that, piece together where him and Lucy are from. But
yeah, and maybe that could have some implications for the future.
Maybe we'll run into her again. Like, maybe they'll go back to like 1972.
I can see, like, even not that. Like, I can see her like properly fixating on this for the rest of her life, almost changing what she does after this.
Maybe she'll even we'll see her as an old woman in like present day, and she'll like, but she'll have like answers to something, or she'll have...
and she'll see Rufus and Lucy. She'll do the "you haven't aged today."
Oh yeah, that old time travel trope that they always seem to use.
Yeah. There was another one in this. I can't remember if it's specific time travel, but there was another one of those classic lines that got used to give me a chuckle.
Go on.
I don't remember it now. As I'm trying
to.
I'm just saying, like, this show does that, like, so I can see them doing it in general. I don't remember what it was.
There was another line in this that was great. I can't remember what it was, but it was very good.
See, I wasn't going to bring up the line. It was just that now we're talking about, like, that it does these sort of lines. Like, we can see it doing that. It's like, well, it did one of them in this episode, so I can see it doing it again anyway.
Yeah, it's mostly working. By the way, another laugh that I had was early on when they're getting their costumes and they get their passes, and Lucy complains, wait, secretary? Surely I can have something a bit more like fulfilling that can get me in more places or whatever. And then Rufus is like, you're complaining to the guy who has to pass as a janitor.
Yeah. And I just feel like she should know better, frankly.
I guess. I don't know.
I just think she should know the situation. It's like, look, it's a secretary. It doesn't matter. You're not actually a secretary. You're undercover for a day.
Oh no, I know, but like she's thinking of it, and it even comes up that she doesn't have clearance to get into certain areas, but like they could only make a pass for a secretary because, even though we see Katherine Johnson, there is women with like more, prominent job roles in the time period. They're not as frequent enough that it would they would notice another one just appearing.
Yeah.
It would be like, wait a minute, there's like three of you. What's going on? Like something's changed here.
Yeah.
Whereas secretary just blends in, and Rufus is a janitor, blends in.
Yeah.
Although I was laughing a little bit when when he was like it was when they first got back and are first there, and Rufus is at the back of the control room and he's just sort of like in awe of watching them all do things. I really thought that by the end of the episode he was just going to walk up in his janitor uniform and start solving problems for them all.
That reminds me, I do have a plot quibble to do with this. So we see repeatedly she can't scan her card. Like, it's not letting her into this area where everything is.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she gets sent to go and get the tape, right? He goes, "Oh, you go get it. Just go fetch it and come back with it." How does she get back into the area?
Catherine gives her card.
But she doesn't in the scene. She just runs off straight away. Because I when it happened, I thought it was going to be a thing. Like, oh, this is going to be an extra obstacle. She's not going to be able to get back in.
Do you know, it's funny, I never actually thought the card specifically, but I did think the same thing, where I thought, since she's gone off on her own, there'll be an extra thing. And there kind of was, because she ran into the guy again, and they had the little...
Yeah, barely, though, innit?
I don't have an answer. I was trying to play devil's advocate. You're probably right. It seems like a... Do you know what it seems like? It seems like there was probably a scene, but they had to cut it for time, so they just glossed over it.
Yeah, probably.
That would be my guess. There was a scene where she gets in some way, but they just like, nah, time's over and we have to just...
That probably is the case, but I noticed it, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, as for plot quibbles, I will say they've not acknowledged yet that Rufus, his recording device, like, got thrown away last episode. No one's asked him about it. It's not come up, we don't even know if he's recording this trip.
It's true, and again, in its defense, we've only seen him with the agent giving them the files. We haven't, like, in the present day. We haven't seen him with Mason.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So we haven't actually had that scene happen at all yet. So it's not like we've just missed it.
Well, that's true, but I mean, like, from even just the perspective of the team, though, like, Lucy and Wyatt are in on it now. They know about this, so it's just weird that it's not been addressed, that they've not brought it up.
That's true. You'd think they would have acknowledged it.
Anyway, guys, that's this week's Timeless. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. And, yeah, we'll see you next time.